Life will break you, sometimes in ways you never imagined. The job you poured your soul into disappears overnight. The relationship you trusted shatters without warning. The plans you built for years collapse like sandcastles against the tide. In those moments, it feels like the world is over, like you are finished. But here's the truth. You are not finished. You are being tested. Life is not destroying you, it is shaping you. Every breakdown is an invitation to rebuild. Every fall is a chance to rise stronger. Today, we're going to talk about how to rebuild yourself and rise strong step by step until you no longer see your scars as weaknesses, but as the proof of your resilience. The first step in rebuilding yourself is to accept where you are without shame. This is often the hardest step because we live in a world that teaches us to hide our struggles. From a young age, we're told to smile when we're hurting, to stand tall when we're trembling, to act like everything is fine even when we're falling apart inside. Society glorifies strength, but misunderstands what strength truly is. It paints the image of strength as being unshaken, unbreakable, flawless. But here's the truth. Strength is not the absence of weakness. Real strength begins the very moment you admit you've fallen. Too many people stay trapped because they refuse to face the truth of their situation. They spend years pretending the marriage is fine when it's falling apart, pretending they're happy in a job that is killing their spirit, pretending they're okay when inside they are drowning. The more they pretend, the deeper they sink into shame. But shame is a prison, and the key to escape is acceptance. When you admit you've fallen, you are not declaring defeat. You are declaring readiness. You are saying, "This is where I am. This is my reality, and from here I will rise." There is no courage in denial, but there is infinite courage in truth. Think about Japan's art of kintsugi. When a piece of pottery breaks, they don't throw it away. They don't hide the cracks or glue them in a way that pretends the break never happened. Instead, they repair it with gold. They take what was broken and make it more beautiful than it ever was before. The cracks don't disappear. They shine. They become the story, the mark of resilience. Your life is no different. The cracks in your soul, the scars on your heart, the moments when everything seemed shattered. These are not stains of failure. They are proof that you endured, and proof that you are still here. Imagine someone who loses their business overnight. They invested years of effort, sacrifice, and hope only to watch it crumble. At first, shame whispers to them, "You failed, you're worthless." But if they accept the fall instead of hiding it, something shifts. They say to themselves, "Yes, I've lost everything I built, but this is where I am. I can begin again." That acceptance becomes the seed of their second chapter. And often, the second chapter is stronger, wiser, and far more meaningful than the first. Or think of someone facing heartbreak. Maybe a relationship they thought would last forever ends abruptly. At first, the instinct is to hide the pain, to post pictures online pretending life is still perfect, to assure friends that they are fine, but deep down, they are broken. It's only when they stop pretending, when they allow themselves to sit in the truth of their heartbreak, that real healing begins. Accepting the fall doesn't mean you enjoy it. It means you face it honestly so you can rise again. Here's a paradox you must understand. The people who seem unbroken often live in chains, while those who openly embrace their cracks are the ones who find true freedom. The crack is not the end of the story, it's the place where the light can enter. So stop pretending you are unbroken. Stop covering your wounds as if they make you unworthy. The very thing you are most ashamed of could be the source of your greatest strength. You are not defined by the fall, but by your courage to acknowledge it and your determination to rise. Accept the cracks, because they are not signs of failure. They are the beginning of your masterpiece. When life collapses, it is rarely an accident. Sometimes the ground beneath us must break so we can see what we were standing on was never stable in the first place. The collapse feels painful, devastating, even unfair. But hidden inside that destruction is a strange gift, the gift of space. The space to begin again, the space to build differently. Yet most people cannot accept that gift because they cling to the ruins. They grip tightly to the very things that are holding them back. Old patterns, toxic people, limiting beliefs, habits that drain them, identities that no longer fit. Rebuilding demands courage, and part of that courage is the willingness to release what no longer serves you. Think about a forest after a wildfire. At first glance, it looks ruined, blackened, lifeless. The trees have fallen, the landscape is scarred, and the silence feels heavy. But look again, wait a little longer, and you will see something miraculous. Shoots of green begin to push through the ash. New plants, stronger and healthier, start to rise where the old ones once stood. The fire did not destroy the forest, it cleansed it. It cleared the way for new growth. Your life works the same way. The collapse is not always a curse. Sometimes it is life's way of clearing out what was no longer meant for you. But here is the challenge. You cannot hold on to the ruins and expect new growth to flourish. You must be willing to let go. Some people stay trapped for years because they cannot release. They replay the betrayal over and over, clutching bitterness like a shield. They live in regret, dragging the past into every tomorrow. They cling to relationships that drain them simply because they fear being alone. They refuse to abandon habits that keep them small, even when those habits are slowly killing their spirit. And then they wonder why they cannot rise. But how can you rise if you are carrying the weight of everything that's already fallen? Imagine trying to rebuild a house on land that is unstable, sinking, riddled with cracks. No matter how beautiful the design, no matter how strong the materials, it will collapse again. You cannot rebuild on quicksand. You must clear the ground, remove the debris, and create a solid foundation. In your life, that means releasing resentment, shedding toxic attachments, and breaking free from the belief that you must always please others to be worthy. Consider this. People who have reinvented themselves most powerfully are often those who dared to let go of what once defined them. The athlete who suffers a career-ending injury but discovers a new passion by releasing the dream of who they thought they were supposed to be. The business owner who loses everything but instead of clinging to the past, embraces the unknown and builds something even greater. The individual who leaves behind the relationship that crushed their spirit, finally discovering peace and self-love on the other side. The release is never easy, but it is always necessary. There is a truth you must carry with you. Not everything and not everyone is meant to go with you into the next chapter of your life. Some people were only meant to walk with you for a season. Some habits served you once, but now hold you back. Some beliefs protected you in your past, but imprison you in your present. When life removes these things, do not resist. Do not run back to the ashes, trying to rebuild what was never meant to last. Trust that the space left behind is not emptiness, but preparation for something new. If you want to rise, you must travel light. Release what is heavy. Release bitterness because it poisons your heart. Release regret because it keeps your eyes fixed backward. Release the need for approval because it chains you to everyone else's expectations. Letting go is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is understanding that your future cannot breathe if your hands are full of the past. The collapse is not the end of you. It is the clearing. But you must be brave enough to step into the space it creates. Let go of what no longer serves you, because the life you are meant to live will only rise on the foundation of freedom. When everything around you crumbles, the noise of the world fades, and you are left standing in the ruins, it can feel like you have lost everything. The titles, the roles, the plans, the routines, all of it stripped away in an instant. In that moment, you may feel hollow, as if the ground beneath you has vanished. But this is not the end. This is an invitation. When the outside collapses, you must turn inward, because rebuilding is not about copying who you once were. It is not about reconstructing the old version of yourself piece by piece. It is about reconnecting with your inner core, discovering who you truly are beneath all the layers you have worn to please others, to meet expectations, to fit into the world. Ask yourself with honesty, what do I truly value? Not what others told me to value, not what society rewards, not what makes me look successful on the outside, but what matters to me deep in my soul. What kind of life do I want to create if I no longer have to prove anything to anyone? These questions are uncomfortable, but they are also liberating because they strip away illusions and bring you face to face with truth. Research from Stanford University showed that people who anchor their identity in their core values are able to recover from setbacks faster and stronger than those who don't. Why is that? Because when storms hit, the world shakes. But if your compass is rooted in something deeper, you are not lost. You may bend, you may stumble, but you do not break. Circumstances no longer define you. You are guided by an inner North Star. Think of someone who defines themselves only by their job. The moment that job disappears, their identity collapses with it. They are left adrift, unsure of who they are without the title. But someone who knows their core values, perhaps creativity, growth, service, or integrity, may still grieve the loss, but they do not lose themselves. They can say, I have lost this role, but my values remain. I can still live in alignment with them. I can still create. I can still serve. I can still grow. That is the power of reconnecting with your inner core. It gives you a foundation no collapse can shake. Every great rebuilding begins within. History is full of examples. Nelson Mandela lost decades of his life to prison, stripped of freedom, cut off from the world. Yet in that silence, he reconnected with who he was and what he stood for. When he walked free, he did not come out bitter or broken. He came out anchored in forgiveness, justice, and unity, values that no prison walls could erase. That inner clarity allowed him to rebuild not just his own life, but a nation. You may not face a prison cell, but you may face your own kind of confinement, a failed relationship, a financial collapse, a season of loneliness. Do not waste that moment by running outward, seeking distractions to numb the pain. Go within, sit quietly with yourself. Ask the questions most people are too afraid to ask. Who am I, really? What am I here to do? What lights a fire in me that no setback can extinguish? The answers may not come immediately. They may arrive as whispers, as small sparks of recognition, as subtle nudges in your heart. But if you listen, if you lean in, you will hear the voice you have been drowning out for years. The voice of your inner core. That is where your true self resides. That is where your strength lives. Everything you need to rise again is already inside you. You are not broken beyond repair. You are simply being called to return to yourself, to rediscover your purpose, your faith, your vision. The outside world can take many things from you, possessions, titles, security, but it can never take the essence of who you are. And once you reconnect with that essence, you will not just rebuild your life. You will rebuild it on a foundation so unshakable that nothing will ever tear it down again. When life falls apart, the instinct is to want everything fixed at once. We want the pain to vanish overnight, the wounds to close instantly, and the broken pieces to magically come together again. But rebuilding doesn't happen that way. You cannot construct an entire skyscraper in a single day. You cannot repair a lifetime of struggle in one sweeping moment. True rebuilding is slow, patient, and deliberate. It is laying one brick at a time, trusting that the small actions, repeated consistently, will one day form something magnificent. The human mind loves dramatic change. That's why we fantasize about overnight success, sudden transformation, and instant breakthroughs. But in reality, those stories are rare, and often they hide years of quiet effort. Real transformation is not the result of giant leaps. It is the product of consistent action, day after day, choice after choice, step after step. Think about someone recovering from a devastating injury. They do not rise from a hospital bed and run marathons the following week. Their journey begins with small, almost invisible movements. A wiggle of the fingers, a step supported by crutches. Exercises that look simple but demand enormous courage. It is painful, frustrating, and at times discouraging. Yet over time, those tiny steps accumulate into strength. Muscles grow, confidence returns, and eventually they walk again. Later, they may even run. What looked impossible becomes possible, not because of one dramatic effort, but because of steady persistence. Your life is no different. You do not have to solve everything today. You do not need to know exactly how the entire journey will unfold. What you need is the courage to take the next step. Wake up a little earlier than yesterday. Read 10 pages of a book that feeds your mind. Go for a walk when you don't feel like moving. Apply for that one opportunity even if rejection scares you. Make one phone call, write one page, practice for 10 minutes. These actions may seem insignificant in isolation, but when compounded over weeks, months, and years, they transform you completely. Think about how compound interest works in money. You invest a small amount and at first it barely grows. The progress is almost invisible, but stay consistent and over time the growth multiplies beyond what you imagined. Life works the same way. Every small effort is a seed. Alone it seems small. Together they create a harvest. There's a reason habits are more powerful than bursts of motivation. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes with moods and circumstances. But habits, built by small, consistent steps, anchor you. They turn actions into identity. The person who walks every day becomes someone who values health. The person who writes a page daily becomes a writer. The person who saves a little money each week becomes financially free. Who you are becoming is shaped not by what you occasionally do, but by what you consistently practice. It's tempting to compare yourself to others, to feel overwhelmed by the distance between where you are and where you want to be. But comparison blinds you to the truth. Nobody begins at the top. Every master was once a beginner who stumbled. Every success story was once a tale of small, ordinary actions repeated with extraordinary consistency. You don't need to take giant leaps. You only need to take steady steps. And here's the beauty. One day, without even realizing it, you will look back and see how far you've come. The person who felt broken, lost, and stuck will be unrecognizable. You will see the tower you built brick by brick, and you will realize that consistency rebuilt you. Progress may feel slow, but slow progress is still progress. The cracks in your life are not repaired by rushing, they are healed by persistence. Trust the process, trust the small steps, and keep moving forward even when it feels invisible. Because one day, those small steps will reveal the truth. You are no longer broken. You are rebuilt. You cannot rebuild alone. No matter how strong you believe you are, no matter how much determination you carry, the people around you shape the environment in which you rise or fall. Human beings are not built to exist in isolation. We are influenced, molded, and directed by the voices closest to us. And when you are in the process of rebuilding, when your heart is fragile and your confidence is shaken, the voices around you can either become the fuel that strengthens your spirit or the weight that pulls you back into the ruins. Some people will remind you of your failures. They will whisper doubts into your ear, questioning whether you are capable of rising again. They will speak of your past as if it defines your future. They will chain you to your old mistakes, not because they want the best for you, but because your rising would expose their own unwillingness to grow. If you surround yourself with these voices, your spirit will begin to shrink. You will start to believe that maybe you are not capable, maybe you should settle, maybe you should give up. These are the destroyers, those who chip away at your courage piece by piece until you no longer recognize your own potential. But then there are the builders. These are the people who see not just who you are, but who you could become. They remind you of your strength when you forget it. They push you forward when you hesitate. They don't deny your past, but they refuse to let you be defined by it. Builders don't just stand beside you in victory. They stand beside you in failure, holding you up when your legs shake beneath you. And sometimes it is their belief in you that reignites the belief you lost in yourself. History offers countless examples of how the right circle can change everything. Consider Thomas Edison. After years of hard work, his entire laboratory and factory burned to the ground. In one night, his dreams, his investments, his creations, all reduced to ash. Anyone would have understood if he had surrendered in despair. But Edison was surrounded by a team who refused to let him quit. They reminded him of what he was capable of. They stood with him in the ashes, not with pity, but with encouragement. And within weeks, Edison was inventing again, building anew, driven by the energy of those who lifted him when he could have collapsed. Without the right people, even geniuses crumble. With the right people, even the broken rise strong. Your circle is your mirror. If you are surrounded by doubters, complainers, and destroyers, your reflection will begin to look like them. If you are surrounded by dreamers, doers, and builders, you will find yourself rising to match their energy. This is why you must be intentional. Audit your circle. Ask yourself, who drains my energy? Who makes me feel smaller? Who feeds my doubts? And then ask, who believes in my comeback? Who pushes me to grow? Who reminds me of my strength when I cannot see it? Do not underestimate this choice. The voices you hear daily shape the voice you hear inside your own head. If the people closest to you keep speaking doubt, you will start to speak it to yourself. If they speak faith and courage, that will become the language of your inner world. You are the average of the people you spend the most time with, and when you are rebuilding, you cannot afford to be surrounded by destroyers. Stay close to those who see in you what you cannot yet see in yourself. Stay close to those who call out your potential, who stand by you not just when the sun shines, but when storms rage. Because in the journey of rebuilding, belief is contagious. And when you borrow belief from others long enough, one day you will wake up and realize it has become your own. The final step in rebuilding yourself is to stop seeing pain as an enemy. Pain is not a punishment. Pain is not a sign that you are cursed, weak, or forgotten. Pain is a teacher. It speaks a language that comfort never can. It carves lessons into your soul that joy alone could never teach. Every scar you carry tells a story. Every failure hides wisdom. Every heartbreak contains a seed of growth. Rebuilding is not about erasing pain. It is about transforming it into power, using it as fuel to rise stronger than before. Most people spend their lives running from pain. They bury it under distractions, silence it with denial, or drown it in addictions. But here is the truth. The pain you refuse to face becomes the chain that holds you down. The only way to be free is to turn toward it, to embrace it, and to ask, what are you here to teach me? When you do, the same thing that once crushed you becomes the force that shapes you. Look at the world, and you will see this truth everywhere. Malala Yousafzai was only a child when violence tried to silence her voice. She was attacked for daring to demand education, for daring to dream. That moment could have ended her story. It could have left her broken, fearful, and hidden. But she chose differently. She transformed her suffering into strength, her pain into purpose. Today, her voice carries across the world, igniting a movement that has changed millions of lives. What was meant to silence her instead amplified her power. Or think of Viktor Frankl, who endured the unimaginable horrors of concentration camps. Stripped of everything, his freedom, his family, his safety, he faced a level of suffering most of us cannot comprehend. Yet he discovered something profound. While he could not control the brutality of the world around him, he could control the meaning he gave to his pain. Out of that suffering, he taught humanity a lesson that still inspires today. That even in the darkest moments, life has meaning, and our power lies in choosing how we respond. His pain became his gift to the world. Your pain is not wasted. That betrayal you endured, that loss that tore your heart apart, that failure that left you questioning your worth, they were not the end of you. They are the fire that can forge your strength if you allow them to. Every time you rise from pain, you become someone new, wiser, stronger, more compassionate, more resilient. The very thing you thought would destroy you can become the foundation of the life you were meant to build. Think about your own life. The moments that shaped you most deeply were not the easy ones. They were the struggles, the nights you cried yourself to sleep, the battles you fought when no one was watching, the times you were forced to dig deeper than you thought possible. Those moments taught you courage. They taught you empathy. They gave you perspective. Without them, you would not be who you are. So stop asking, why me, and start asking, what now? Stop cursing the wound and start listening to it. Stop seeing pain as the end of your story and start seeing it as the beginning of your transformation. Because pain can do one of two things. It can keep you down, or it can lift you higher. It can trap you in bitterness, or it can ignite your greatness. The choice is yours. Your scars are not signs of weakness. They are proof of survival. They are proof that you endured what was meant to break you, and you are still standing. Carry them with pride, because they are the evidence of your strength. Your pain is your power, and when you choose to transform it, nothing in this world can stop you from rising strong. Rebuilding yourself is not easy. It demands acceptance, letting go, reconnecting with your core, taking consistent steps, choosing the right people, and transforming pain into power. But when you do, you will rise not as who you were, but as someone stronger, wiser, and unstoppable. So remember this: life doesn't break you to destroy you. It breaks you to rebuild you. And when you rise, you will rise unshakable.